As part of FYI TV's ongoing series Lens on London's Olympics, let's take a look at some sites old and new. If you haven't been in London for a decade, you may not have seen 30 St. Mary Axe, as it's now known. Formerly the Swiss RE building, known as the Guerkin. It opened at the end of May 2004. It's got 40 floors, was designed by Norman Foster and Arup engineers. Ed McCann was part of the design team for the velodrome. He speaks from the Heron Tower.
So if you look over to the river, you can see the remnants of Victorian wharfage, which talk to the fact that the port of London was right here. And this was where the freight went and off into the hinterland and off around the world, in fact, from there. And then you move inland and you see the buildings that come up in the early 20th century, the trading houses that are down there where they brokered deals around the world. And they're made out of different stuff. You've got buildings celebrating Britain's colonial past. And then you come into the 60s and you see technological artifacts and steel expressed out of them.
Canary Wharf is a major financial district. It contains 14 million square feet of office and retail space. Construction began by the Canadian company Olympia in York in 1988. Now let's meet Nikki Higgins, part of the education team for the Old Royal Naval College.
The history of the Old Royal Naval College site stretches back almost 500 years to when Henry VIII was on the throne. This particular part of Greenwich is where Greenwich Palace stood, and it was a really important palace. Henry's two daughters, Elizabeth and Mary, were born here. He married two of his wives here, and among all the games and activities that Henry took part in at the palace, one of his favourite was jousting, and he actually built a tilt yard in Greenwich up towards where the park is now. So there are equestrian links here in Greenwich that date right back to the time of Henry VIII. The buildings that stand on the site today were designed by Sir Christopher Wren and Nicholas Hawksmoor, and they were built to be the Royal Hospital for seamen, so for injured sailors who'd spent their lives fighting out at sea. After that time, these buildings became the Royal Naval College, and it became a training centre for officers. So there's been a long naval connection with this site. One of the strongest naval connections we have relates to Admiral Lord Nelson, and after the Battle of Trafalgar, his body was brought here to Greenwich, the Old Royal Naval College, to lie in state in the Painted Hall, and thousands of people came to see his body and pay their respects to one of Britain's most important naval heroes.
Now let's take a look at another royal park. Greenwich Park features a large grassland enclosure covering almost 183 acres, serves as a sanctuary for deer, foxes, and birds. It's home to the Old Royal Observatory and the Observatory Planetarium. Now let's pay a visit to the Tower of London. Soon we'll meet John Keohane, the Chief Yeoman Warder of the Tower of London.
It's been a village ever since it was constructed, and of course today we still have 47 families living in here. Today the majority of the accommodation that we live in has been developed during the Victorian period through Prince Albert and Queen Victoria, who we know absolutely loved the Tower of London and came here on a very regular basis. We have the Great Waterloo Barracks, which was built during the Duke of Wellington's time and was actually built around 1845 to house the 1,000 soldiers that were here as part of the military garrison in those days. You've got the new Armouries building, which is now part of our corporate hospitality facilities that we have here in the Tower of London. One of the most common questions that we always get from our visitors here at the Tower, they know that the Tower has been used in the past as a prison, but they often think of it rather as a jail, because we get people arriving here and they come along and they ask, well, where are the dungeons? Where are the people kept? And of course what we have to explain to people is that the Tower of London, yes, it was a prison, and we've had prisoners here from 1100 right the way through until the end of the Second World War, when this was a holding centre for German prisoners of war. I mean, Rudolf Hess, the Deputy Führer of Nazi Germany, was kept here in May of 1941. But in the early days, the prisoners who were kept here were really high-ranking members of the aristocracy, people such as queens, kings, knights, bishops, people like that who were brought here primarily to be deprived of their liberty, not actually to serve criminal sentences, although that did happen infrequently.
From the old to the new, let's complete our tour of London today with a quick visit to the O2 Arena. It's a multi-purpose indoor arena located in the center of the O2, a large entertainment complex on the Greenwich Peninsula. Capacity of up to 20,000 people for an event. Holds many major concerts in London. That's it for now. Look for more FYI TV videos where we'll take you to Trafalgar Square, Whitehall, the National Gallery, Hyde Park, and Kew Gardens.